The recent scourge of fake news in the Nigerian media space has been a major issue of concern for so many. It is a fact that fake news is propagated by economic, social and political interests with an intention to deliberately arouse national fear and unrest. To curb the growing social menace of fake news in the Nigerian media space, the Guild of Professional Bloggers of Nigeria, GPBN, organized a lecture to sensitize bloggers on the implications of the dissemination of fake news in the society. The event, themed Combating Fake News in the Cyberspace, was held on Saturday, the 13th of October 2018 at the Radisson Blu Hotel, Ikeja GRA, Lagos. It had in attendance the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Professor Abigail Ugwueze-Ndisika, Head of Department, Mass Communication, University of Lagos, Mr. Chris Kehinde Owando, President, Guild of Professional Bloggers of Nigeria, among other important personalities. The event kicked off with welcome remarks by Mr. Chris Kehinde Owando, the President, Guild of Professional Bloggers of Nigeria. In his remarks, he welcomed all to the event and talked about the reason for the creation of the Guild of Professional Bloggers of Nigeria. He said the idea was conceived in 2015 while he was serving as an inmate at the Ikoyi prisons for 18 days. Over a post he shared on Facebook, he said what seemed to be a harmless but sincere story got him charged and jailed under the cybercrime law.
The basic idea behind GPPN is to set up a body that will set standards for the practice of blogging, just like every other profession in the world. An association with ethical standards on how the profession will be practiced. An association that will be able to regulate itself. We thank God that our efforts are today yielding fruits. With the setting up of GPPN, gone are the days when blogging is seen as a job for dropouts, blackmailers, and never-do-wells. I, for one, apart from the experience I had, I also made up my mind that there's a need for me to also get to know this law in totality and what to do, which is why today, by the grace of God, I'm an undergraduate. After about 28 years of graduating from school, I'm back to school to read law, to be a better blogger. Blogging may be an emerging trend in Nigeria, but it is a career that is practiced with credibility all over the world, and we cannot be different. Professionalism in mass communication cannot be set aside. Hence, it is my belief that with the setting up of GPBN, the social media industry will be sanitized. There have been several attempts to regulate the industry by various governments in Nigeria, but this has become absolutely impossible because there is no recognized body of practitioners. We have set up the Guild as a bridge between the public and practitioners who want to become members.
In her definition of fake news, Professor Abigail Ugwueze-Ndisika said, fake news stories are items that are intentionally spread in the society in order to propel rage or war. She said stakeholders must never relent to continue being the watchdog of the society, as all must work together to ensure the war against fake news is not futile.
I strongly believe that fake news is a threat to our cyberspace. As such, stakeholders in the media industry must stop at nothing to ensure that the truth prevails. As this speech proceeds, permit me to stick to the use of fakes, which implies fake news, misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. There are online sources that you have to believe. And as you come together as an association to deal with this, it's one of your social responsibility to the society, and that way you'll be taken more seriously. For us in Nigeria, we have had our own tale of fake news. As Nigeria draws nearer to the general elections in February next year, discourse around the influence of fake news or fakes cannot be undermined. It is a discourse that every stakeholder must partake to ensure we fight fakes headlong. Today, we have the privilege of having stakeholders in government, media, political parties, academia, and the corporate world of Nigeria to discuss the issue of fakes. No doubt we have a representative audience needed to do justice to this pertinent issue known as fake news.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who was the special guest of honor, in his remarks said the theme of the lecture couldn't have come at a better time, given the seemingly uncontrollable spread of fake news in the Nigerian media space of today. He added that bloggers, being the stars and great influencers on social media, must fight to win the war against fake news.
The social media practitioners, in particular bloggers, are critical to any effort to check the menace of fake news. This is why I'm delighted that you have chosen the topic, combating fake news in the cyberspace. We look to you to continue to play a major role in the national campaign against fake news, and we are willing to work with you in this regard. On our part, we have not rested on our oars since launching the campaign in July. We've meeting different stakeholders, and we've been touring media organizations as part of our advocacy. I've just told you that I met with the online publishers and social media influencers on July 24th. I've also visited 5 media houses to date, namely Authority, Blueprint, and People's Daily newspapers, as well as the Channels Television and the AIT. We also boast of many media partners in this campaign. They are the NTA, the FRCN, News Agency of Nigeria, the TVC, Vanguard, The Nation, Leadership, and the AIT, who have all pledged to partner with us in our campaign against fake news. I have no doubt that the Guild of Professional Bloggers will also join us in this fight.
The keynote speaker, Mr. Richard Ikediwa, who represented Mr. Kola Ologbondiyan, National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, in his address said, fake news is an exaggeration of stories, adding that there are sources deliberately created to feed the media with false stories. He, however, urged that the media must take the time and pain to verify facts before any story is shared so as not to misinform the people.
Purveyors of fake news have the intent to mislead for selfish purposes, and industry watchers have identified certain categories of purveyors ranging from peddlers who with very fertile imagination engage in outright fabrications of falsehood and create imaginary events with sensational storylines. There are others who latch onto real events. You know, we have one category, those who fabricate things as though they happened, and the other category are those who latch on real events but distort the facts, including the when, the where, the who, the what, and the how. All of us are journalists, so you know these basic principles. These basic principles of the where, the when, the who, the what, and how. They distort them in order to achieve an ignoble intent. Such purveyors exaggerate issues. Breaking the chain of fake news by refusing to share them on the internet is also an important obligation of all citizens. Furthermore, the credible media must rise to the challenge in the campaign to sanitize the media space by ensuring strict adherence to gatekeeping standards, as well as improvement of capacity for speedy breaking of news before the uncensored media. Because the problem there, gentlemen and ladies, is that because people are on the go, they want to get the news as fast as possible. The purveyors of fake news go to the press faster than those who want to have this gatekeeping standard. It is good to have them, but we need to speed up to ensure that we don't allow the fake news people to get in before us. The media should also be very cautious of sources that have been identified as purveyors of fake news. As we go to 2019 election, please be cautious of what certain people will feed us in the media.
Mr. Kufri Ekanem, Corporate Affairs Advisor, Nigeria Breweries PLC, began his discourse by commending the President, Guild of Professional Bloggers of Nigeria, Mr. Chris Kehinde Nwando, for achieving so much in so little time. In his lecture on fake news, he said people share fake news stories because they are of benefit to them, adding that it is so easy to carry out fake news stories and get value for it. But the value is senseless if we're trying to build a culture of integrity, professionalism, and honesty.
So the world will keep lying. It is you who has the responsibility to make your content transparent and to make your content honest. Let those who want hits get hits. But if I see GPBN, I want to be proud to say I sent it out. Sometimes it will mean not sending out until you've confirmed. One is responsibility. Take responsibility for whatever you do. Number two is content. Decide for yourself that content that is not verified or verifiable will not be associated with you. Rather have empty space. You know, they say a journalist or a writer doesn't like seeing empty space. Once there's a blank sheet, you must put something inside there. So that mindset carried over from writing for media to writing for books to writing for radio, for writing for TV to writing for blogs. How can someone say there's nothing that's come out of my blog? So rather have an empty space than have a false page. Scoops. You know, the feeling of scoops. I want a scoop. That's what pushes us to push. No. But in the end, we build a culture because it's about culture.
Ms. Chiamaka Udenze, Head, Marketing, Diamond Bank PLC, who spoke from the corporate perspective, began by sharing her experience with fake news. She said fake news is like a wildfire burning a beautiful edifice with the intention of making it unrecognizable. She said in the corporate sector, fake news stories break the bond between a brand and her customers, adding that it breaches customers' confidence, which has the propensity to lead to insolvency. Ms. Chiamaka Udenze highlighted ways brands can curb this menace, which includes having a media desk, a hotline, as well as an intelligence media monitoring team. She also added that having a crisis management framework in place, keeping and contacting reliable news sources are also very important.
Fiduciary responsibilities are imposed upon a person or an organization who exercises some discretionary power in the interest of another person in circumstances that give rise to a relationship of trust and confidence. So there's something I like to call the media trust triangle, and it's a tripartite relationship between corporate organizations, media practitioners, and the general public. Corporate organizations have a fiduciary responsibility not to use the media as a tool to deceive the public. Media practitioners have a fiduciary responsibility not to be used for selfish purposes and always to provide a fair, balanced view of information. The general public also has a fiduciary responsibility not to incite the propagation of fake news. And so each stakeholder has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure the balance of power is maintained as far as information dissemination is concerned. Technology has empowered everyone who has a brain, a device, and internet access. So the spread of fake news is more a threat to society now than ever before. What if we stop seeing information at face value and start to think about the consequences to the affected parties and the potential of unverified stories to incite violence, hatred, or economic sabotage? Just like an explosive without a spark, fake news will not have life if it's not propagated. So I implore you all today to take a stand against the promotion of fake news, which makes innocent people, brands, and institutions suffer at the detriment of our economy.
In the same vein, Mr. Nasir Ramon Olarewaju, Head External Affairs of the UBA, while discussing the implication of fake news in the financial sector, said, fake news halts businesses. He highlighted some workable solutions which financial institutions can implement to protect their businesses, which include owning their news media and responding swiftly to false information.
It is an unfortunate truth that fake news typically gets more interaction than real news. You know, we need to go to Facebook and Twitter to understand that this is the reality of our time. I don't know the reasons, maybe because of the sensational part of aspect of the news, or the way it is presented. A lot of definitions have been given about fake news, so I will not bother myself with these definitions. But let us go with what Stanford University defines as fake news. He said, news articles that are intentionally and verifiably false and could mislead readers.
The event also featured a music performance by up-and-coming talented acts, Fasayo. Mr. Basil Udotai, managing partner, Tech Advisors, spoke on the triggers of fake news. He said in a bid to feed the society with news and entertainment, bloggers consciously and unconsciously spread fake news stories. He said the Guild can set up standards for bloggers by creating an internal fact-checking arm responsible for calling out fake news and recommending sanctions for erring members.
Fake news would never go away. Fake news is here, is a paradigm. We've shifted, and we'll quickly share why that is so. We've shifted from a traditional media mode. We've gone to a digital media mode, and this is one of the characteristics of the digital environment that we're in. But that is not to say that we shouldn't think of how to take care of it. Now, liberalization of communication and growth in computing is what has taken us to where we are today. Of course, on the media side, everybody wants to get the news out first, make sure they beat the rush to publish. That in itself, virality and the commercialization of content is what pushes that. Nobody just wants to be first because they want to be the guy that breaks the news. There's a commercial element to it at the back of the engine that runs the media platforms. So the information that you have 1 million guys clicking your content, you have so many people viewing your site, that is what you take to the advertisers. That's the real value of your platform.
This was followed by the remark of the chairman of the occasion, Professor Abigail Ogwezindasika, the head of department, Mass Communication, University of Lagos, which brought the event to an end.
Fake news is toxic to businesses because it can lead to customers questioning the trust and integrity of financial institutions, which can lead to loss of trust in a brand. He recommended that we should all adapt to a digital mindset, own our news. We shouldn't just leave it to the other team. So you should also up your ante. And he said we should have strong presence across media platforms, respond swiftly and effectively, and engage thought leaders, especially people in the new media profession. He also said that media professionals should adhere to professional standard. If you adhere to professional standard, ethics is the way to go. That's the first thing, which is your self-regulation.
From BISCON Communications, we congratulate the Guild of Professional Bloggers of Nigeria, GPBN, on the success of their inaugural lecture.